Afterlife of the Party was bad, but the ending saves this movie. Before I get into my review of this movie, consider this your spoiler warning because I will be talking spoilerish stuff about this movie. So I don't think this movie is for me, right? I am an older Hispanic male, and this movie is definitely geared to a younger crowd, a crowd that used to like that Disney show Victoria, starring anyways Victoria from that show. I think she's capitalizing on her fame from that show, and because people are gonna recognize her from that show. But I think this is solely directed to her fan base and people like me that might have seen it and be like, "Oh, she looks familiar. Let me see what this movie is all about." And yeah, when you see it, it's all over the place. And even though they tried, there's a couple of good parts in it, some okay humor. But I said it's definitely a teen or a younger, like 20, like let's just say 30 and younger. 30 and over, you probably feel like I did, that it was just a lost hour and 45 minutes. The script for this movie was so bad. It felt like I was watching a Disney kids show, and that's basically the way they wrote it. Maybe because she was more comfortable with this type of script, but I don't know. So basically, it's about this girl, and you find out the plot really early on. She is a horrible person, even though it seems that she's a good friend, a good person, but then you find out that she wasn't. She was self-centered, she was self-absorbed, and she only thought about herself and not others. And she has to get these three names, which is her best friend, her mom, and her dad, off the list before she's able to go to heaven. And she's given 5 days to do so, and if she doesn't, she goes to hell. And that's basically the plot, and you go on the journey with her to try to see how she gets it right. So go, if you're into that kind of stuff, go watch it and you'll know a little bit more. I just don't want to give out too much spoilerish thing. I know people don't like that, but the whole thing just felt, like I said, just bad from the script. The acting was bad. The production for this movie was bad, and the prop team for this stuff was bad. Like there's stuff in some scenes where a cup is there and a cup is not there, where a lamp is there but then it's moved, where she's supposed to be dead but then she's still casting a shadow. And some of the how she's able to do stuff as a spirit is kind of ridiculous. And they spend money on the CGI for this, or the special effects for this movie. Why didn't they spend a little bit of time just to take away her shadow, make it a little bit more believable in what you were seeing? You were like, yeah, this should have been on Disney Plus on the kids section, because that's how much they spent on it. And I get that this is Victoria's way to branch out from that Disney brand, but again, it felt like she was using her Disney fame and the fame she got from Victoria's to kind of push this movie on forward from her choices. Like even one of the stuff where they said, oh, you only have her fairy godmother or her guardian angel, whatever you want to call it, goes, oh, you only have 2 outfits, so make the best of it. Yet she has 5 different outfits or 6 different outfits that she's able to use, because they're banking off her sexuality, the way she looks. 'Cause she's a gorgeous girl. She's a gorgeous woman, let me just say that. And she has a nice figure, a nice body, a nice face. And they're definitely putting that out there. Oh, yeah, she's an empowering woman, and she's, and I get it, all that, good stuff. And they just bank off of that too much. But they break their own rules that it's set up for itself. And you're like, well, then why even bother in having that in the script if you're not going to follow it? Because people like us that actually pay attention to movies and shows, we're gonna catch on, and we're gonna call you guys out on it, because hey, you're the one that set up the rules. Just don't, if it doesn't matter to it, when you had a rewatch, when you had the executives watch it, someone should say like, well, why don't we just take this out? because it makes no sense. Just let her have different outfits. It doesn't add or take away anything from the plot. But when you put this as you only have 2 outfits, and then she has like 6 outfits, come on, you just killed your own thing right there. And so, and then when you see her, she's very unlikable because she's so self-centered. And then she like gets mad at the only person. We find out that, you know, her and her father's love was estranged because she doesn't want to call him. She likes a post in his Facebook. She's really distant from both her mother and her father, and she hates her mother because her mother literally walks away, and she tells us that later on in the movie, that she walked away because she just couldn't be a parent. She was young and she was afraid, and that kind of hits home with a lot of people. But her best friend was literally there as her guardian angel, and she is just so willing to throw that relationship away. And you're like, what a bitch. Like, this person over here, like, it gives anything to you and wants to see you safe, wants to see you succeed, and yet you treat her as such, as a horrible person. And then even before she dies, she goes over there and tries to make amends, but then is so pissed off. And that's when, you know, right before, after she dies, where her friend, you feel more bad for her friend because she has to carry the burden. And yet when she's, you know, in her afterlife, she still gets mad at her friend, you know, as at her best friend, because, oh, you know, I'm dead. And she's trying to guilt trip her friend to feeling bad for her because she's dead. And I'm like, oh my God, like the one person that loved you without no end, yet you treat her like garbage. And that, you know, again, how many people don't feel like that? They're there for someone, and that person just treats them like shit. And no matter what, you stay by that person's side and try to be their rock, try to be their anchor. And no matter what, they keep on shitting. You're like, God damn, at some point you would just been like, you know what, screw this shit, and walk away. But she doesn't. But towards the end, when it's, you know, Victoria and her dad, and then they're saying farewell, I mean, I found myself tearing up a little bit. I thought the ending was the best part of this movie, was as far as the most thought out. And I found myself tearing up. And you guys know from many of my reviews, if you could bring a tear to my eye, it means you did something right. They didn't do a lot of stuff right, but they did some things right. Some of the humor was okay, like I said. They were focused much more on Victoria's outfit than actually giving us a compelling story to follow along. And it was just a bunch of plot device to move along a very, very poorly thought out script and written script. And I don't blame the actors in this movie. I blame the people that wrote the script. And if some of the actors were involved in the script writing, then shame on them too. But the ending makes up for this movie. It definitely hits you in the feels. And for that reason alone, I'm going to give this movie a C-, because the ending makes up for it. And again, if you can make me feel something, it means you did something right. Maybe I'm just a little bit soft, but that's my rating for this movie, a C-. Let me know it down in the comments what you thought. Is a C- too low? Did you enjoy this movie? Did you not? Let me know. Put your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.